The wind did not merely howl, it wept, not the mournful keen of a storm gathering strength, nor the playful rustle through ancient leaves, but a sound profound and aching, like the collective sigh of 1,000 forgotten generations. To the few stoic inhabitants of the desolate plateau known as the Sunken Reach, it was just the omnipresent voice of a harsh land, a constant companion to their toil and their silence. To Cale, however, it was a symphony of secrets, a tireless chronicle of all that was, all that had been, and all that might yet unravel beneath the vast, indifferent sky. He heard every syllable, every fragmented memory, every fleeting whisper carried on its invisible currents, and he understood. Cale was scarcely a man, perhaps 16 summers having etched their passage upon his lean frame, though his eyes held the weary wisdom of ages unlived. He moved with a quiet economy, born of solitude, his worn leather tunic and simple breeches doing little to distinguish him from the other youths who scrabbled for existence in the shadow of the obsidian spines. Yet, there was an ethereal quality to him, a faint shimmer of otherworldliness that often made even his own shadow seem less substantial. His hair, the color of sun-bleached desert grass, often seemed to stir by the wind's urging, but by some unseen energy that hummed just beneath his skin. It was in his gaze, though, a deep, unsettling grey that seemed to peer not at the world, but asterisk through asterisk it, as if constantly deciphering an invisible script written on the very fabric of reality. The land itself was a testament to time's relentless erosion, a skeletal finger pointing towards a glorious, forgotten past. The Sunken Reach was not a depression, as its name implied, but a vast, elevated expanse of cracked earth and hardy, twisted scrub ringed by jagged, volcanic mountains. Ancient ruins, their forms softened by centuries of wind and sand, dotted the landscape like the scattered bones of colossal beasts. Towers of obsidian, their surfaces polished by millennia of atmospheric abrasion, jutted from the earth at impossible angles, some still bearing faint, indecipherable glyphs that spoke of peoples and empires long swallowed by the dust. Here and there, strange crystalline formations, pulsating with a faint inner-luminescence, sprouted from the ground like alien flora, whispering their own silent energies to the restless air. It was a place where the past was not buried, but merely diffused, lingering in the very particles of the air, woven into the song of the wind. This was the crucible of Cale's existence. He lived with his grandmother, Elara, in a small, weathered hut carved into the side of a low, rocky outcrop, protected somewhat from the wind's perpetual assault. Elara was a woman of formidable will and even more formidable silence, her face a roadmap of hard-won wisdom. She knew of Cale's gift, though she never spoke of it directly, merely watching him with an understanding gaze that spoke volumes. She had been the one to teach him the names of the indigenous plants, the paths of the migratory desert beasts, and the subtle shifts in the sky that foretold both blessing and bane. But his true education came from the wind, a tireless tutor whose lessons were boundless and often unsettling. From his earliest memories, the wind had been more than just a force of nature. It was a companion, a confidant, and a relentless informant. While others heard only the mournful sigh or the aggressive shriek, Cale heard words. He heard the faint echo of a desperate plea from a shepherd lost in a sudden sandstorm, miles beyond the visible horizon. He heard the joyous laughter of children playing in a distant oasis, their innocent sounds carried on currents no ordinary ear could discern. More profoundly, he heard the echoes of history itself, the solemn pronouncements of long-dead kings, the frantic whispers of fleeing refugees, the clanging of swords from battles fought centuries ago, their spectral echoes vibrating in the very air. These were not mere auditory hallucinations. They were coherent fragments, fleeting glimpses into other lives and other times, delivered with startling clarity. The process was rarely comfortable. Sometimes, the whispers were a gentle caress, soft as a lover's breath, weaving tales of ancient romances and forgotten heroes. Other times, they were a violent assault, a cacophony of fear and pain, bombarding his mind with images of past calamities, of cities crumbling and civilizations turning to dust. He had learned to filter, to focus, to consciously engage with the torrent of information, but it was an exhausting, solitary burden. He often retreated to the solitude of the ancient ruins, where the wind seemed to speak with particular eloquence, its voice echoing through the hollowed-out chambers of forgotten temples, revealing the purpose of their shattered altars and the prayers whispered within their walls. There, amidst the crumbling stones, Kale would sit for hours, absorbing the fragmented narratives, piecing together the grand tapestry of a world far richer and more complex than his isolated existence suggested. His ability wasn't a choice, it was an intrinsic part of his being, as natural as breathing. He didn't actively listen to the wind in the conventional sense. Rather, the wind spoke to him. It was a constant hum beneath the surface of his awareness, a subtle vibration that would intensify into distinct messages when the wind carried something significant. For instance, a few weeks prior, a sudden shift in the wind had brought with it the faint, metallic tang of iron mixed with an unfamiliar, acrid smoke. It wasn't merely a smell, it was warning imbued with the desperation of distant screams and the distant thud of heavy footsteps. Kale, though he couldn't pinpoint the source, knew it signified danger, a movement of something destructive far to the west, beyond the towering peaks. He reported it to Elara, who, with her characteristic lack of question, simply nodded and began storing extra water and dried provisions, a testament to her quiet faith in his unique perception. This gift, however, had rendered him an anomaly, an outsider even among the stoic folk of the Sunken Reach. They respected the wind, feared its unpredictable nature, and built their lives around its dictates. But they did not converse with it. They saw Cal's faraway gaze, his tendency to pause mid-stride, head tilted slightly as if listening to an unseen speaker, and they simply attributed it to a quiet oddity. Some whispered of a wine-touched boy, a creature perhaps blessed or cursed by the spirits of the air. Children, in their innocent cruelty, sometimes mimicked his contemplative silences, holding their cupped hands to their ears and making whistling sounds, only to be quickly silenced by their parents' stern glares. Kale bore it all with a detached resignation, for he knew they could not understand the ceaseless deluge of voices, the incessant flow of information that shaped his every waking moment. How could he explain the vibrant tapestry of ancient skirmishes, the desperate prayers of forgotten priests, the lost lullabies of mothers sung eons ago, all swirling around them, unseen, unheard by any but him? The weight of this knowledge often pressed down on him, a heavy mantle upon his young shoulders. He saw the world not as a singular, immediate reality, but as a composite of countless pasts, presents, and potential futures, all interwoven by the invisible threads of the wind. A simple rock wasn't just a rock. The wind told him of the ancient currents that had shaped it, the creatures that had sheltered beneath it, the hands that might have once held it. A wisp of dust wasn't just dust, it contained the remnants of an ancient fire, the fragments of a crumbling wall, the very breath of a person long departed. This hyper-awareness brought both wonder and sorrow, a profound connection to the world, but also a profound isolation from those who perceived only its surface. He was the world's accidental confidant, burdened with secrets that were not his own, yet compelled to bear witness to them all. This wasn't merely hearing. It was understanding, an empathetic resonance that allowed him to not only perceive the wind's narratives, but to feel the emotions embedded within them, to truly grasp the profound significance of its enigmatic whispers.